welcome back to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is May 16th, and we're on page 46 of your magazines. And today we're going to talk about a very, very common problem of all of humanity, of most of humanity, I would say.
And, in fact, across human history, although it's a worse problem today because now we have the accurate technology to be able to tell time. We're talking about the science behind lateness.
Right. If you said, well, I didn't know the time, I couldn't get here on time. Well, everybody's got a phone, a watch. It will give you the correct time.
When we think about the past, one of the biggest problems we had for most of human history is, what time is it? Mm-hmm. And that seems silly, but that's really true. Even in eras where we had clocks, the ability to accurately measure time, and everyone agree, was an exceptionally difficult thing. Think of what you did this morning. Probably the very first thing you did was turn off your alarm clock. That is a technology that exists today that for many big parts of human history, they had no way to accurately do other than some rooster waking you up. And that's to arrive at the correct time was almost impossible.
I will add in something to speak for people in my position. I never, ever use alarms, but I do want to check the time.
That's interesting. So how do you awake?
I just wake up.
I sleep like the dead.
You're
the dead.
Blessed.
I have slept through robberies
in
my own house.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. I was woken up by the thief when he came into my room.
Oh, my gosh.
So,
oh, God. You'll have to save that for another day.
I need an alarm to wake me up. And so if I don't have an alarm, I will be late.
I just need to check the time. I just never use alarms. And I really am keyed, I think, to the sun. So if it's getting close to sunrise, I will definitely wake up. And if it's darker, I will still wake up around that time. I find alarms really harsh. I just don't like.
I agree.
I don't like being yelled at in the morning by an alarm.
My mom still has one of those really old, not the big bell one, like not one of those, but like the ones in the 80s, if you remember, like
those are awful.
The worst.
Those
I'm like,
awful.
Mom, why do you use this?
Those digital clocks.
It's so terrible. I have a very soft melody that wakes me up, and every time I visit home, that alarm clock just makes me crazy, and I would rather be late than have to listen to that thing.
I can imagine, but I know it would spoil a piece of music for me if I had to listen to it to wake up. Anyway, the title of our article is The Science Behind Lateness. Now, if you're looking for some excuses why you are always late, you may find them here.
Yes, we could share some unethical life hacks. We can go down this route if you need to.
It's going to explain that actually being late is not so much a character flaw. There are reasons for it. So here's our article. We all have friends who are late for everything. You tell them to arrive at 7 and they arrive at 7:30 or later. Or maybe the late one in your friend group is you. What makes it so hard to arrive on time? There are many factors behind why some people seem constantly late for every event.
When it comes to time management, one of the most fundamental skills we rarely think about is our perception of time. How much time we believe has passed can affect our punctuality. Researchers at San Diego State University conducted a study to figure out how people measure time. They divided test subjects into two groups based on their personality. Type A people, who had traits of being ambitious and competitive, and Type B people, who were more creative, reflective, and explorative. They found that Type A people felt a minute had gone by after about 58 seconds, while Type B people felt a minute had passed after roughly 77 seconds. This discovery meant that Type B people believed they had more time than they actually did, which more often than not made them late.
There are also mental factors that can contribute to chronic tardiness. People with anxiety problems may be more critical of themselves. Therefore, it takes more time for them to get ready. For example, they may worry about how their outfit looks, so they need a lot more time to get dressed.
But how can one overcome lateness? For one, you can set all the clocks in your home 15 minutes fast. Adding 15 minutes to the time you need to get ready is also helpful. That way, you'll hopefully leave your home on time. With some self-reflection and time management, lateness can be a thing of the past.
If only it were that easy. And what would happen to you if all your clocks were set at 15 minutes after the current time?
So I actually do have this situation.
Oh.
I have my clock set 10 minutes fast, and I'm mad at myself that I do this because
But it helps.
I mean, sort of, no, because I am a little bit fundamentally opposed to the idea behind setting your clock 15 minutes fast.
The theory.
I'm not stupid. I know what time it really is.
Yeah.
I know looking at that time, I instantly do the mental math.
Yeah.
I don't know why I keep my clocks like this, but I do it.
I think I used to, but now I think it's more helpful to have exact times.
I agree.
The correct times. And not all of our clocks always run on time. They run on batteries, and sometimes they slow down in things. So I have found, however, that it's better to trust your clocks. Because if they're ahead, you're never sure of them. You can't trust them anymore. You're not believing them. I just don't like that
You're
feeling.
trying to fool yourself. But who are we really fooling here?
That's right. Well, let's go back to the beginning. The science behind lateness. So lateness we view as like I said, a character flaw. Character means the kind of person you are, how high your standards are for your own behavior and your own thinking. So we view it as a character flaw. That means there's something wrong with you as a person. But here we're saying that there is a science behind it, depending on your personality type, which I found really interesting. There may be something to it. So let's go back to the beginning. We all have friends who are late for everything. Now, I guess it's true, and sometimes I am the late one. I try to be on time. I don't like being really early either. So I tend to aim for being really, really precise, and I usually am.
That's
it's really
funny.
close.
Me too. And to complicate matters, I probably by nature will want to be late. I probably by nature want to be I'll run naturally 10 minutes late. But because I feel this is a little bit rude, I try to be on time. So what happens is I panic, get ready so that I can be exactly on time. I think if I were a little less conscientious, I would be a chronically late person.
That's very interesting. I bet that it's similar to many other people. I'm sure you're not the only one. For me, I said I want to keep my time correct, all of the clocks correct, and that works well when you're using a digital device. So I have a watch that gives the correct time. This is very important to me because from my doorway to the bus stop, I know exactly how long it takes me.
God, we're so similar.
Depending on how motivated I am. If I know I have less time, I know how much faster I need to go than usual. I need to know that I have to take 2 steps at a time instead of 1 step. And I know where I can decide not to run, but I have to walk fast. I have it down to the second. And it happened this morning as well. And I got there on time, just on time.
We're so similar. This is creepy. You're practically in my brain saying exactly what I'm thinking.
I try to leave a few extra minutes, and usually I do. But sometimes something just comes up at the last minute. I didn't turn off the light. I have to run in and turn off the light. So that has taken off a few seconds. So I need to know the exact time in order for that system to be functional.
Yeah, I agree. If one of my cats won't go into the correct room or there's another cat that doesn't want to come out, that can throw your schedule off by 1 or 2 minutes. And if you take the Taipei MRT, you're standing around for 8 minutes, and that's a waste of time.
Okay, let's go back over the first sentence and go right into the second sentence. We all have friends who are late for everything. You tell them to arrive at 7, and they arrive at 7:30 or later.
Or later. Oh, that would be a nightmare for me.
Fortunately, that doesn't usually happen with me. Most of the people I know are pretty much on time. Or maybe the late one in your friend group is you. I will tend to be late, but usually within 5 minutes, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, I think 5 minutes is acceptable. It's 15, 20 minutes where things get problematic.
That's right. What makes it so hard to arrive on time? They're asking the question here to lead into what they have discovered about different kinds of human brains or personalities. There are many factors behind why some people seem constantly late for every event. And right here they have me hooked because I didn't know that there was some reason in our brain that makes some people more likely to always be late than others.
My older sister is chronically late. We do that naughty trick where because she's always late, we will artificially build her a buffer. We'll say, okay, we'll see you at 3:30. But we really know she won't be there till about 4. So we all arrive at 3:45.
Oh, okay. I think that's fair, though. I mean, she must know that.
We don't tell her.
But she must know that about herself.
I think so. But yeah, there's always an excuse of hey, don't worry about it. Come on in. Okay, let's continue to our next paragraph. When it comes to time management, one of the most fundamental skills we rarely think about is our perception of time.
And that is, in fact, something I had never really considered before reading this piece.
So when we say the word fundamental, this just means basic, and your perception of time is what time do you feel it is? How much time do you have, and how much time do you need to get out the door and on your way to your location?
We humans have a lot of skills that help us in everyday life that we probably take for granted and don't think about much. One thing that I think about a lot these days is how much water do you need to fill up the electric thermos? Because you have a line where you have to stop. If you put more water than that in, it will boil over all over the counter. And if it's too low, your water won't last as long. So I try to take a container and fill it up with the exact amount that is left in the thermos. And usually I'm right on the nose. And I'm not especially good with quantities or spatial concepts. That means that we humans have this built into us that we are pretty good at estimating volumes.
That's interesting because I can understand not wanting to pour the second or third cup of water or whatever it is that takes to fill that line. It's weird because it doesn't take that much more effort, but in you want to be precise. You want to have a certain amount of precision, and so you want to nail this in one shot. And I think this is a reflection of your personality. I wonder if there aren't just people that are okay with pouring 3, 4, 5 times to get it right, or maybe it's not close at all, and they're just like, whatever.
Well, I think first of all is I definitely want to save effort because you have to run to the kitchen and back because the thermos is in the next room. But it's a game.
I agree. I think of this as a game too. And this is odd because, we've been doing this a while now, and we have many similar characteristic traits. And I think those err on the side of compassion and being conservative with nature and also being diligent and hardworking. We don't have a lot of slovenly traits, if I may say so many nice things about ourselves.
I hope.
So I wonder if there aren't people that are different than us that hear us talking and just think we are so uptight.
Yeah. And in Chinese literature, there's this famous character who thinks, close enough.
Those guys are often good at what they do. I'll give them that.
Okay.
Let's continue. How much time we believe has passed can affect our punctuality.
And this was the big surprise for me in this article, that our brains actually estimate time in different ways.
So punctual is from Latin, and it just means sharp point. This is the word punctuation, like period, question mark, quotations. These are all punctuation. And we use punctuation in a very specific point at the end of our sentence or to enclose quotes. So punctuality means we need to be at a place at a very specific time, just like punctuation we use in a very specific place. Also, punctuation, don't add S. I said it 4 times wrong. I keep adding S. Don't do that. It's wrong. My mouth just wanted to put an S there. It's wrong. Don't say punctuations.
If you really want to add an S, you can, but then you need to say punctuation marks.
Let's continue to our next sentence. Researchers at San Diego State University conducted a study to figure out how people measure time.
Now they've really got my interest.
So when we figure something out, it means we're trying to learn something by doing a process. They divided test subjects into 2 groups based on their personality. Type A people who had traits of being ambitious and competitive, and type B people who were more creative, reflective, and explorative.
It's interesting that they can divide it into such clear groups because I think most of us are a mixture of the two.
I actually wrote down, are you more type A or more type B? I used the word more to reflect that we're a blend. I probably want to consider myself a type B person, but I'm probably actually more A. I don't know if I'm able to be honest with myself.
I think you are a mixture. That's what I see.
You have to be a blend, right?
You're a mixture.
Okay, let's continue to our next sentence. They found that type A people felt a minute had gone by after about 58 seconds, while type B people felt a minute had passed after roughly 77 seconds.
That is fascinating.
Doesn't this feel like the setup to a joke? And then like little Johnny comes in and a minute passes after whatever. Like there's a punchline coming here.
You could do something like that, but what it meant for me was those type B people, they're dreaming. Because so-called creative people, and by the way, we are all creative. It is not just a certain group of artists and musicians who are creative. All of us are naturally creative. But I think it's a question of how much you indulge your creative side, because once you're in that creative space, you start dreaming. And when you're dreaming, you're in the right side of your brain, and then you forget about time. That's what happens, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I do feel, at least this was my thought as a child, that adults attempted to close off, to wall off their creative sides, that they didn't want to indulge in that.
Yep.
That it was
That's right.
immature or childish to be creative and explorative with art or music or whatever.
I think it happens to almost every human because we assume that all children like to draw, and they do. But then we also assume that they're going to give it up somewhere around second grade.
That's funny. I personally draw in my own kids' books as a way of demonstrating to them that I don't have a problem when they doodle in their books.
Yeah.
Some of them like to doodle. I remember being scolded for doodling, and now I'm the teacher. And if you doodle in your book, and as long as you're doing it at the correct time, you're checking your answers, et cetera, if you doodle, I have no issue with it.
And as long as you're not obscuring the parts you need to read and know.
Yeah. In fact, I quite like when students contribute to their writing by doodling, but all of this is neither here nor there.
That's right. Obscure means to cover it up so you can't read it clearly or see it clearly.
Let's continue to our next sentence. This discovery meant that type B people believed they had more time than they actually did, which more often than not made them late.
I am convinced that these people simply go into a dream state. You're just going into a state where you're daydreaming.
It feels very optimistic to me. I imagine optimistic people will be later than maybe more pessimistic people because, I can finish this in this amount of time is a naturally optimistic position.
Always multiply that number by 3.
Ooh, that's a good thought. I do this mental math in my head. I do ask because I work nights naturally, but we record in the morning, and those nights I don't often get a terrible amount of sleep. I'm often usually a little bit sleep deprived, a little bit short on sleep on days I record here. So I do ask myself the question, what's the latest I can wake up and finish everything and not be late?
Makes sense. An important calculation. Third paragraph, there are also mental factors that can contribute to chronic tardiness. So there are things going on in your brain that can tend to make you late. People with anxiety problems may be more critical of themselves. Therefore, it takes more time for them to get ready. Like if you're worried about what you're wearing, like it says in the next sentence, are people going to judge me? They're going to criticize me. Oh, my hair isn't good enough. If you're really worried about all those things, you may just need more time.
Let's look at the word chronic. Chronic is a Greek word that means time. Here, chronic means repeated, and it's not good. And tardiness is Latin for slow. You may know maybe some people have mental retardation. This means they have disabilities where they can't perform at what we might call standard levels.
And we don't usually use that word anymore. It's not politically correct. We'll say like mentally challenged or something.
I agree. It is a little bit of a word that's fallen out of fashion, but tardy meaning slow here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the last sentence of our paragraph, for example, they may worry about how their outfit looks, so they need a lot more time to get dressed.
On one of the first dates with my wife, we weren't even boyfriend-girlfriend at this time. We were going to meet at Yuanshan Station in Taipei. And if you know the Yuanshan MRT station, it's the first MRT station that comes out of the ground heading north towards Danshui. And the sun sets quite beautifully over the platform there. And it was a very nice warm day. And I was waiting for this beautiful girl who was going to meet me. And 15 minutes goes by, 45 minutes goes by, 1 hour goes by. And I'm thinking, she stood me up. Like she doesn't want to see me, which is fine. So I just texted her. But
well,
I understood.
I understand what's going on.
Are you okay? She's like, I'll be there soon. Are you sure? If you don't want to see me, it's okay. I'll be there soon. 90 minutes goes by. 2 hours goes by. I said, are you coming or not? 2.5 hours later, this very beautiful girl shows up.
Oh, no.
And she was very excited for the date, and she could not get herself ready because she was so concerned about how she would look.
No.
And so she just kept spending more and more time getting dolled up.
What a
and she looked
story.
exceptional, and the sunset was beautiful, but she was late 2.5 hours.
Oh, my, what a great story. Okay, we have one paragraph left.
But how can one overcome lateness?
All right, that's the question. How can we fix this problem?
For one, you can set all the clocks in your home 15 minutes fast.
And we've already discussed this. I personally don't think it's a good solution, but it works for some people.
Yeah, or just set it two days in advance. Set it
no.
5 years in advance. You'll never
That will
be
not
late,
work.
right? This logic doesn't work. Adding 15 minutes to the time you need to get ready is also helpful.
Yeah, that's right. So you should start earlier. But knowing that your clocks are lying to you, for me, doesn't work.
I think adding time is the best solution here. Next sentence, that way you'll hopefully leave your home on time.
Yeah, that's what we all hope.
With some self-reflection and time management, lateness can be a thing of the past.
I think they wrapped that up a little too fast. They haven't really solved our problem yet. They just kind of suggested some beginnings of solutions.
I think Atticus has the proper take on this. He says, I hope to arrive to my death late, in love, and a little drunk. That sounds like a good solution.
Oh, that's lovely. Okay, let's go to our questions. Number 1.
Which word in the passage means the fact of arriving or doing something at the expected time?
And this is a word we talked about quite a bit. That word is punctuality. Note that it's spelled with a T-U, but we make a sound. We pronounce it as ch, punctuality. Number 2.
Fill in the blanks with the information contained in the passage. We have a nice little table here. Our top row is labeled type, personality, and how they measure time.
And the first type of people are type A people. And as for personality, we have a number 2 here. That means this is question number 2. We have to fill in the blank. As to personality, they are blank and have a strong wish to be successful. The answer should be competitive. The second type of people is type B people. And their personality, as to personality, they are creative, reflective, and explorative. Now, for question number 3, we have to fill in this blank. Type A people felt a minute had passed blank than what type B felt, and the answer here is faster. Type A people felt a minute had passed faster than what type B felt. Number 4.
Check the people who are likely to have a problem with being on time. So we have another little chart, a statement, and then you check it if you agree this person will be late. Let's read the first one.
Ed is a teacher. He spends lots of time preparing his teaching materials. Nah.
It doesn't imply being late.
Okay, the second one.
Amy is an artist. She's much more creative than other people.
She is often going to be in that daydreaming state, so time will slip by and she won't even notice it. So we put a check here. The third one is Sally is a student. Her clocks are set 20 minutes fast. Well, hopefully that's going to help her be on time, so we're not going to check that.
And finally, Willie is an office worker. He feels that minutes pass slower than they actually do.
That's somebody who has to watch out because he thinks that only a little time has passed, but actually a lot more time has passed. He will have to be very careful about being on time, so let's check that one. And that is it for today. We're done. We'll see you next time. Tune in then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.